Welcome to the Wednesday video blog from Windsor Community Church in Invercargill, New Zealand. My name is Peter Dunn and today is the 1st of April 2020, and I'd also like to introduce my co-host. We're calling him Church Ted, and he sits in the window in my office, and at the moment the children walk by and say hi. So today marks the 7th day of the national lockdown of New Zealand to combat the spread of the COVID-19 virus. So what is COVID-19? In the interests of following ancient wisdom that says know your enemy, here are some things that I have found out. The first question is origin. Where did it come from? There have been conspiracy theories that it was the product of a Chinese biological warfare facility near Wuhan in China. And that is because of the complexity of the virus and its unusual genetic makeup, and it was released either accidentally or on purpose. As one of the conspiracy theory websites noted, is that it kind of appeared when there was that democracy movement trouble in Hong Kong. And since the virus has begun, who has heard anything from Hong Kong? In a report on a scientific article on the genetic origins of COVID-19 published in sciencenews.org a week ago on March the 26th, this is what they reported. Working collaboratively, a number of American microbiologists and geneticists made a determination. COVID-19 is a natural virus most likely to have originated in 2 animal species. In the city of Wuhan, as in most Asian cities, there is a wild animal market where animals are bought live for human consumption. Every conceivable small animal you can think of is there. Dogs, cats, monkeys, bats, pangolins, you name it. You can see pictures of them. And there are many that I've never heard of, let alone seen. And I'd suggest if you want to get a full understanding of these wild animal markets, you do a Google search on the Wuhan wild market, and I can guarantee you'll be quite shocked. These animals are bought from all over the world, many smuggled illegally. I saw a picture of koalas, for example, in one market. The animals are kept tightly packed in cages, half-starved in unhygienic conditions, and cages containing animals from, say, Africa are crammed against cages with animals from, say, Central Asia. Animals have virus infections like humans. They get the flu, the animal flu that is. In those conditions, viruses jump between species and mutate. Occasionally, they then jump from an animal host to a new species like humans. In 2002, SARS appeared out of a wild animal market in southern China. SARS means severe acute respiratory syndrome. Given a chance, the virus attacks the lung cells of humans. SARS genetics points it to originating with what are called horseshoe bats. There were 8,000 cases of SARS in 29 countries, with 774 deaths between 2002 and 2004. That was a death rate of just under 10% of those infected. It was a vicious and worrisome disease, but because it wasn't good at spreading, it was soon contained. However, it was a wake-up call for many in the scientific community. At the time, China closed all wild animal markets, but they soon opened again and were as big as ever last year. And I read yesterday that the markets, after being closed because of COVID-19, have been reopened in China. So we forward to November 2019. From the wild animal market of Wuhan, a new virus emerged. It acted differently from SARS-1, being much more infectious. Its genetic makeup shows it has two animal origins, bats and a kind of anteater called a pangolin. Maybe the bat virus jumped species to the pangolin and mutated with a pangolin virus, or it could have been the other way round. Whatever the way, the virus then jumped to humans and this pandemic began. The new virus is called SARS-CoV-19. As I said before, SARS stands for Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome. COVID is short for coronavirus. The word corona stands for the crown-like structures on the virus, and 19 stands for 2019. So we have COVID-19 for short. Its genetic makeup, originating from bats and pangolins, makes it a novel virus, meaning a new one to which humans have never been exposed, and because of that we have no immunity. Complicated by the fact that eight human mutations of it are already doing the rounds. For humans it is dangerous until immunity through exposure or immunization is achieved. As with all viruses, it has a brilliant defense. A virus is not alive in the traditional sense, like a bacteria for example, so you can't kill it with antibiotics or anything else. The only thing you can do is stop it spreading, hence the lockdown that we are in. On Monday I interviewed through Zoom one of our own here at Windsor Church, Dr. Sue Pearce. So here we are discussing COVID-19.
So you're recording?
Okay, thank you, Sue, for being with me. And Sue is the clinical leader of a large medical centre here in Invercargill. And she's a GP. She's also a member of our church. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk to her about the COVID emergency that we're in. And I've got some questions for her, just for clarification. I suppose the first one is a kind of a nosy Parker question. Is when the lockdown started last week, how did that change your life in the medical centre?
So it's completely changed the way we do things. So the Medical Council sent out a note to say we were to reduce our face-to-face consultations by 70% if we could. So we basically, the admin team had to start at the top and work and cancel all the appointments and then basically see who wanted to be phoned. So we now have a list of people to phone rather than come in. And we've also had to stream the medical centre. So there's one door that people can come in and one passageway. They come in if they're well, and then if they're not well, they have to come in through the back door and they have to stay down that way. So we have to separate well and sick. So there's, yes, my team, which seems the sick, they've called us, we're in the back passage, apparently. Just a little bit of light entertainment. So we're down there. And so, so we have to, well and sick apart so that people with normal health problems can come in and not be afraid of catching something. So it's been, the whole thing's restructured and we've had to split into teams and, big change.
Yeah. So you're obviously looking for people who are presenting with COVID symptoms, and are they being easy to identify?
Well, Helen is the person on the phone, so she basically takes a lot of the calls as they come in, and she's got algorithms and guidelines from the Ministry of Health, which change. We're up to version 12 as of today, and so there's a guideline as to what symptoms and have people been overseas and various things that work out whether she thinks they need to go and have a swab or they need to come and be seen.
Mm. So who's Helen?
Helen's your lovely wife.
That's right. So true. Yeah, she's working hard on that telephone triage kind of thing.
Yeah, so she's very good at that.
Oh, that's very good to hear. She'll be glad to hear that too. How dangerous is COVID-19? Because, there's still people saying that the winter flu season takes a lot of people. A lot of people die through it. We've lived with COVID only about 4 or 5 weeks in New Zealand. So how dangerous is it?
So I think originally when it first started, people were saying the flu kills more people than COVID. But now with Italy and Spain and America, I haven't looked at the statistics, but I'm sure COVID is killing more people than the flu would kill in such a short time. So it is dangerous, but it depends who you are, how dangerous it is, really.
Yeah, okay. Looking at the figures today, so today's Monday, we're going to post this on Wednesday, so the figures will be out already. There are 83 cases in the southern DHB. There are 8 identified cases in Invercargill. Are you aware of any community transmission beginning, or are they attributed to other causes?
At the moment, we're only testing people that have been overseas and people that have been in contact with a known contact, but today we're allowed to add people that were on the Wanaka AMP show or people at the Hereford conference.
Oh yeah, the Hereford conference.
The Hereford thing. So we've only been able to test select people, so we don't know about community transmission because we're not testing. But one of the GPs in our practice is also a professor at Otago University who in public health, and she does a little bit of part-time general practice. She says it will be in the community. We just haven't tested it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically, you just assume it's there.
Okay. Yeah, and that's what we're all watching for. So looking at the stats, and especially what's happening in Italy and in Spain, what groups of people are at most risk?
Well, it's the over 70s. But I think Italy's figures it's a lot of over 80s. A huge number of their deaths are the over 80s. So they all followed the Mediterranean diet and ate healthily, and they're still alive in their 80s, but they're dying of the COVID.
Okay.
Yeah, sadly.
So is that replicating here in New Zealand? Do you think, when like the over 70s were told to stay home 3 days before the lockdown, is that likely to
continue? Yeah, so we still think the over 70s and then the under 70s with medical conditions are the at-risk groups at this stage.
Yeah. And so what are the underlying medical conditions that would concern you the most?
So I've got a whole list. We've got a whole list again, which these things get updated. But so you're looking at heart disease, lung disease, diabetes, kidney disease, liver disease, anything chronic. I know that people that have had cancer get a bit worried, but the guidelines here, under active treatment or within 4 weeks of completing treatment for cancer. So that rules out, so it doesn't, just because you've had cancer doesn't mean you're at risk.
Right.
So that's quite a good one. Then there are all people, with blood disorders, people with kidney transplants, heart transplants, people on certain medications, they're obese, and we don't know about pregnancy because it hasn't been thought to affect pregnant women, but we don't really know a lot yet.
Right. So would you advise, obviously you advise people to isolate, especially over 70s, and, be quite strict about that. What about the flu jab? Is there any advantage in having the flu jab as not to prevent COVID, but...
No, it's still a good idea because you don't want to have the flu and COVID at the same time. We're assuming that would be a bad combination.
Yeah.
And so it is good to get the flu injection. And it can take a couple of weeks before it gets to its full effect in the system. So you need to get it in advance. Hopefully people are isolated so they're not going to get the flu because the government has ordered more flu vaccines, but they can't get them to us.
Okay.
So there's a New Zealand distribution issue with the flu vaccine. So if you ring your GP, you may find they haven't got any.
That's interesting.
Yes. Helpful.
Helpful, it is. Yeah. Well, not many more questions I'd ask, but is there anything else you would like to add before we sign off?
I'd like to say that the trouble with places like Italy and Spain and America is they didn't take it seriously, they didn't shut their borders, and they've just got a huge wave of illness and their health systems can't cope. And there isn't enough medical care for everybody, and you'll hear Jacinda talking about flattening the curve. So instead of having a big, huge amount, we're trying to have just a little amount, which means everybody that's sick should get appropriate medical care, will get a ventilator if they need one. So we're getting a small amount, but over a longer time so that people should get care. So we shouldn't see what happened in Italy and Spain and what's happening in America happen here. We're trying to stop that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's awful in Italy, but it shouldn't happen here because Jacinda got onto it very quickly.
Good. That raises one last question in my mind. To flatten the curve, is that going to take longer than 4 weeks?
Probably it is. And I hear her talking today about border restrictions, and it may go longer. I guess it just depends how much is in the community and what we see over the next, they're sort of talking about the next week to 10 days to see what happens with the numbers.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sue. I appreciate your time very much. And we'd just like to say as a church that we think of you. And Charlotte, your daughter's also with you, and my wife, Helen, and we know there are some other medical people in our church too. So you're at the front line. We'd just like to say thank you. And thank you very much. And thank you for this time.
That's right. You're welcome.
Okay. Thanks, Sue.
See ya.
Well, thank you for watching. For next week's Wednesday video blog, I'm going to be interviewing Wilson Fraser. He's a local funeral director with Fraser and Sons. And we'll be talking about funerals in lockdown and the restrictions that the government has placed on funerals. I was speaking to him on Monday, and there are some pretty stringent regulations being brought in, and he was hoping that some of them will be relaxed. So come and catch up with all those regulations next Wednesday. Now that you know your enemy a bit more, please stay in your bubble, as community transmission of COVID-19 seems to be beginning. To our 70s friends and those with underlying medical conditions, please be extra vigilant. For those who belong to this church, I'd actually like to see you again on this earth. And even though that for us who are Christians, heaven is our real home and a much better place, but it'd be nice to greet you again. So I leave you now with a reflection on human nature in a time of crisis. And we'll see you again on Sunday at 10 o'clock if you wish, or again next week. Bye for now.
This is it. This is what you've been working for. I rented this place and I started bringing it here because I didn't know what else to do. I gave up counting it. I mean, I had to. It was just so much, so fast. I tried weighing it, so...
How much is this?
I have no earthly idea. I just stack it up. There is more here than we could spend in 10 lifetimes. Please tell me, how much is enough? How big does this pile have to be?